everybody, this is Lucy Nathanson, child therapist and founder of confidentchildren.co.uk. So as you know, I love interviewing parents about their journey of having a child with selective mutism because they always have a lot to share about their experience, which is really useful for other parents who might be going through similar challenges. So today we have 𝗲𝗲𝗶𝗲𝗰, who is from South Africa. So thank you so much for joining us today, 𝗲𝗲𝗶𝗲𝗰.
Hi, Lucy. It's great to be with you today. It's such a privilege actually to meet you.
Great. I'm really excited about our conversation. So can you just share, first of all, how old is your child right now?
Well, she is 4 years now, turning almost 5, and the diagnosis was made when she was just over 3.
Wow, great. So you caught the selective mutism really early on.
Yes, no, we did. What happened was at school, we had a parent-teacher meeting and they said to me, she's not talking. And I was like, how? What do you mean she's not talking? So yes, in the beginning, it's always like, they don't understand. They think it's shyness. And if you actually go into it, you can see much more what's going on. So it was quite, yes, when you start, it's always like, okay, what is this? What is going on? But at least we did it early. But yes, every day is still coming and going.
Yeah. So she was 3 years old. The teacher at the time called you or asked you to come into school. And were you surprised when they said that she wasn't talking?
Yes, that caught me quite off guard because she would say in the afternoon she wished I was at school, and I could never understand it till I sat now with the teacher, and she's like, that was the last thing she brought up. She's like, oh no, she's not talking. I'm like, no, talking to you or not talking to French. And she said, no, not talking to anybody. And I was like, that's not okay. So the next day I phoned the after school teacher. And she said to me, well, my daughter is playing quite nicely, but she plays alone and she's in her own world. I'm like, but how did you guys not see that not speaking is actually an issue? It's something that has to come normally. So there I didn't know yet a lot about selective mutism. And that's when I started researching, and I didn't get a lot of information in South Africa. So that is when I went to the internet and I started finding these amazing Facebook pages and starting to do my own research. And that is where we started. At least the one teacher took all the information and all the pages I just like threw at her. And she said to me, well, actually reading through it, we can see things in other children that are also there. And I was like, yes, this is where the journey started, but it was hard work in the beginning.
Yeah, it's all about kind of getting that term selective mutism, because a lot of the time parents haven't heard of it. It's, you know, it's not a well-known condition. So did they actually say to you, we think she has selective mutism, or did you have to go home and Google my child isn't talking at school and did you have to find the term yourself?
So one of my family members did mention there is something like this, because the school didn't know anything about this. They would rather say it's shyness. So then when I got the name, I started, okay, what is this? This was so weird. This is something you've never heard of. It's something that's not out there. So you have to start researching. So a lot of it came from what I did and the videos I started watching and the information I started gathering. So then I could also see like stuff where the teacher said she can't pick a chair when the teacher says, okay, go sit somewhere, pick a chair. She couldn't do it. She froze completely. So there I could see, okay, this is actually a big anxiety thing. And that's where some of the things started making sense to you. So if you could take like a video call, she would be funny and she will do stuff, but she couldn't speak. So that is one of the things we immediately started working on, is just lowering the anxiety, where I could see it's like the biggest thing.
Yeah, definitely. And that's great that I suppose the school let you know that she wasn't talking, and then you luckily had a friend who knew the term selective mutism. And then once you start researching, the answers are thankfully there on the internet. You know, there are videos like this and other resources and Facebook pages, as you mentioned. So once parents actually know what it is, they can at least start to look into it. And often parents then become experts on selective mutism and can actually educate the school.
Yes, that is what happens every time, is you know much more about selective mutism than the school. So about your family also, that is where I think the hardest thing comes in, is with family, because as a parent, you want to see your child always as perfect and you want to put her on the pedestal. And now the family is also putting her on this pedestal because she's perfect as she is. But you have to actually break it down for them and say, okay, she is perfect, but there is something called selective mutism. So if she's not talking to you, just leave it. Don't make a big fuss about it, and don't try to force her to speak to somebody that she's not comfortable yet. Because that is a lot what I did have in the beginning, is some of the family members were like, okay, but you can't speak, so speak. And she was like, froze completely. And I'm like, okay, we're going to have to sit and say, this is what it is. She needs a warm-up time. She needs to desensitize in the place where she's at. If she's not comfortable, please don't push her, because you're going to higher the anxiety. Then what we want to do is lower the anxiety in that space.
Yes, exactly. And do you know what? I recently, after 10 years of working with children with selective mutism, just recently made a course specifically for friends and family members, because it's just a short course to help them understand what selective mutism is, because friends and family quite often unintentionally do the wrong thing. So if anyone's interested, I will put the link to that in the description of the video. Because yeah, as you say, it's quite hard to explain to grandparents and auntie and uncle, like, don't do this, you're saying the wrong thing, and quite often they do.
Yes, and then they find it's disrespectful because the child isn't talking, because that's the narrative what we grew up in. If you don't speak to an older person, it's being disrespectful. So I had to break it down quite a lot during the last year and a half, about it's not disrespect, it's just her being in her own space and not feeling comfortable enough to speak yet. So if you're going to help her with the steps, it's going to help her more than putting her back into a space where she freezes completely. And I've seen so much improving just with a lot of desensitization, taking her feelings into account, looking at if she's in a nervous situation, I can take her out of it and I can say, okay, let's hold on, let's get you one side. And then when you're ready, you can speak. So I'll always tell the people, just give her a bit of time. She's still learning to speak to people. Or if somebody says she's shy, that is, I don't like the word shy because it's very misinterpreted. So then I'll put them in a bad situation. I'll get her away. Then I'll be like, she has selective mutism. And then they will be like, so then they'll be like, then I'll explain to them that is actually what she feels, is that moment when you put her on the spot. It's like you can't speak, and it's a very anxiety provoking situation. And I cannot speak for her, which I found quite hard in the last few weeks. Because now when we're in America for a bit now, and there's people wanting to know her name and people wanting to speak to her, and she's like, but mommy, can you speak for me? And I'm like, I can't. So let's take a step back. Let's try to find a way that you can maybe ask something, or we can make it an open-ended question. And in that way, you can maybe get that, because there's like this cutest teddies here, and she wanted one so badly. And I said, okay, let's find a way. So she ended up just looking past my head like this and then whispering. And I said, oh, I thought they couldn't hear it. She asked if she could get a teddy. And then it was like, oh, okay, so this can be your brave teddy, so he can help you be brave. And that was wonderful to see. It was a small step, but it was actually, it took her out of a comfort zone because our home language is Afrikaans, and now she's in more English. So it took her to another step, but I'm so proud of the steps she's taking.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two things there. One was about, briefing people on, not making comments about children with selective mutism being shy, which is so important to create that supportive environment for the child. And then also, as you said, breaking situations down into steps for children, so that if they can't do the goal, which is maybe talking to the person, they can do a step smaller, which in this case for her was whispering to you, which for her is a massive step.
Yes, because it took her from that freeze position, it took her out of it, and she was comfortable enough to say what she wanted. And that was just like, for me, the next week we went back, because it's a library we were at. And the next week we went back, she took the teddy and she could actually speak because she was practicing speaking. And that helped so much just to get her voice out there. And now, yes, with the school, I do see a few ticks coming and a few things coming, like when she freezes. But it's always, you're gonna have to take a step back to take a step forward. It's not going to be always going forward every day. So I always tell the people it's a journey you take. It's not going to be like the next day she's going to be like, oh, I'm speaking to everybody. She will speak to this person, but if we put you in a different situation or a different place, she's not going to be able always to speak to you.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to move at the child's pace, and small steps. I often say the slower we go, the faster we go, which is quite ironic. What I mean by that is that if we move at the child's slow pace, we can build on those steps. Whereas if we try to push them too far, then it's likely to heighten their anxiety and make us go back a step.
Yes, so that is it's the thing that the parents and family have to concentrate on. And I think also teachers is just doing the small steps. It's going to be such more massive steps that you're going to see in a few weeks, in a few days. You're going to see much more progress than trying to put the child in a very high anxiety and then trying to say, oh, but why didn't the steps work? So I feel that is very important, is always just the small steps. And desensitization, like I said, is a big thing I do with her, because I see that helps a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned that you're obviously from South Africa, and when you first started to looking for help for your child, there wasn't much support in Africa. So what struggles did you face in getting support? Because if there wasn't, how did you manage to get help if with the situation there?
Okay, so in South Africa there was one lady, Anel, I think you did speak to her already. She was the only person that had like anything about selective mutism, but because she lived far and she was so busy with other things, she said to me, okay, give this number, and we were fortunate enough to get a psychologist that did a bit of play therapy with her, but that was it. So then I started going and I said, okay, we need something more. So I found a music therapist, and I saw some of the things that she did was on the selective mutism base. So I went to sit with her and I said, okay, so I'm going to start this thing. Do you want to take her and then we can work with her? And the music therapy was actually a big thing that helped her, is learning to use a voice through music. And then it was just basically me running around with a pack of papers, like shoving it into everybody's hands, still in that stage. And we also had like the reward chart, and I had very easy task on there, like who did you play with today, if you can wave at somebody, if you can buy something yourself. And she worked extremely hard, because going down to their level is another thing. It's because they don't understand always what is this big feeling they have. So I went down to a level and I said, mommy also has it sometimes. Mommy gets scared to speak. And she asked me, what does mommy do? And I was like, oh, I wasn't prepared for that. Sure. So I said to her, I put on my big girl panties, and the next morning when we went to school, she said to me, I want big girl panties also.
Oh.
So I ended up going to buy her, and I said, well, this is your big girl panties and we can work with them. And it was also a step that I didn't think much of, that helped her. Also now I got new ones for her, and I said, okay, we're going to put our brave panties on today and we're going to go to school with them. And it's such a small thing, but going down to a level actually saying it's okay to feel like this. It's not, sometimes anxiety helps us. So in a different situation where you're on a swing, anxiety actually helps us because it tells us to hold on so we don't fall off. So I think normalizing it is also a big thing to do.
Yes, absolutely. Sure. No, and it's great to, if a child is open and receptive and ready, it is, I'm an advocate for being open with children about, you know, what we're doing and why, and explaining to them at a level that they can, you know, receive, obviously in a very child-friendly way. And yeah, that's great that you're able to talk to her about that and yeah, be quite open in what you're doing.
Yes, so that is what's nice for me, is she always listens, and I'll always try to get her with me and say to her, like, you are making me brave to do what I'm doing at this stage, because if you had to put me in this situation a year ago, I would run from the camera.
Oh, really? Wow.
So her being brave is making me more brave, and that is so wonderful to see. It is the growth you have in your child and the growth you have in you as a parent. Is going to teachers, going to interviews and saying, well, I'm also doing this. And the end of the day, it's doing it for her. And one day she's going to see, wow, look how brave mommy was. And I think that is quite a special bond we have.
Yes, that's amazing. Because parents often, you know, and I'm sure you were there as well, when you're in the early stages of realizing your child has selective mutism, it feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. It feels like it's quite disempowering. Parents often feel, you know, in despair in those early stages. But then when I speak to parents who have actually gone through the process, they actually on reflection say, you know what, I learned so much through this process, and it actually in a weird way was a positive experience.
Yes, so in the beginning it's horrible. You feel so alone, especially like where I was. I didn't have anybody to back me up and say to me, okay, this is the steps we have to take, or this can help you. I was relying on YouTube videos, on Facebook, and on all the information I had. So I decided this was such a lonely journey for me. Let me be there for other parents, to just support them in ways that I can. And I had this morning again, well, it's still morning here, I had one of the parents send me a voice note of what their daughter is doing at school. And she actually, through everything that we did and all the information I sent, she's able to speak at school. She was able to speak in front of the class. And I was just sitting here in tears, because the woman I was speaking to was also the mommy. She was also not finding any resources, not knowing where to go in the beginning. And just through this bit of helping her, her daughter has grown so much. And the teacher's like, I'm so proud of your daughter. And I'm like, we did it. It's a small step, but it's so big for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing that we have the internet and so many resources out there that we can actually, you know, share with people that can actually make a difference. Wow, that's amazing.
Yes, so that is what I'm focusing on now, is just getting more awareness for it. Because getting the awareness outside there, making people understand that it's not just it's not their choice. It's something that's much more than their choice. And if we sit and we help them build those steps, we can have the bravest children, and we can make this amazing people, little children, and we can make such amazing people out of them.
Yeah, for sure. And children with selective mutism have a special quality, for sure.
They do, they really do. You work with a lot of them, so you see another side of them. But as a parent, we see so much growth in them. And I don't know, it's always funny for me if she does this brave step, that I jump up and down. I don't care where it is. And I start jumping up and down and be like, yay. And the people think I'm crazy. But I'm like, no, I'm not crazy. It's actually just such a big step for us to be in.
And does she actually, sorry, just out of interest, does your child respond well to you kind of showing your happiness? Because it says for lots of children with selective mutism, again, for people who might be watching this video, children with selective mutism often prefer us to show no reaction when they have a step.
Yes, so she gets quite like, what you're doing at first, and then I'm like, let's do a high five and let's celebrate you. We have to praise you because it's a big step you're taking. So sometimes she'll be like, no, don't do it, and other times she'll enjoy me praising her. And it's just how you must find the way you praise your child that is acceptable for them and not overwhelming for them, because you can find a way. One parent will be jumping up and down in a shopping center and it will be overwhelming for them. But if they understand this is how you praise them and they're all right with it, then it is actually also helping them. So in certain situations, we will do like a high five. I'll be like, yes, we did it, high five. And when I can see she's actually excited about what she did, I'll go more out. And that is where you have to know your child so good to see exactly if they are in a situation where you have to pull back, where you have to pull back. If they did something, how you're going to praise them for that. And if you are so excited about what they did, if they're going to be okay with you jumping up and down like, yeah, you did it.
Yeah, it's definitely, as you say, every parent understanding their child and knowing what works for their child, because for some children, they actually enjoy praise and other children prefer the more discreet approach, maybe even just a subtle comment when we're back at home. It really depends on the child. So yeah, no, that's a really good point for parents to kind of tune in with what their child would respond to. So what key message would you have for schools who might have a child with selective mutism?
So for schools, I would say get somebody that knows what selective mutism is, because schools don't always have the resources. They don't find it. They will hear, oh, something like that exists, but they don't have anybody to come there and tell them a bit more about what's going on. So by school, find somebody that knows, a professional, get them in, get the school together and ask the questions that you're not sure about, and get somebody with the information and tell them this is what it is. This is the steps we take. If you see this in a child, please note that if a child doesn't speak more than a month, look into if it can be this. Do your own research. There's so much resources out there. If you just go on YouTube and you go check, or Facebook, you can find so many resources. And always just, if you work with the parents and you work with a professional, you are the most important. The teachers is the most important role, because that's where the child spends most of their days. So if they work with you and the parent and everybody, you are the basic for helping them grow the best.
Yes, training the school is so important, because as we know, lots of schools have never necessarily had a child with selective mutism before. So for them just to understand, and as you said, there are so many free resources out there now. We're so lucky that, YouTube, you could just send some videos from YouTube to the school. There's also I've created an online school training course for schools, which can just be watched with all the key messages that school staff need. And if you can get a professional to actually work with the school, that's even better. If there's somebody who can give individualized training. And luckily, because nowadays with online world, therapists can do the training through Zoom. So there are so many options.
Yes, go for it. Go for learning what mental health is in children. It's actually so important. We don't always see it, because I think in our generation, we were brought up by you were seen and not heard. And we're going into the generation where children can be heard. So for teachers, do it. You've got all these resources available. You have amazing support system for teachers. If you just listen and you actually start seeing children for what they can say and where they are in their lives, it's going to be such a big step for them to help them grow into the best versions of themselves, because I know there's so much potential in them. And I think that's also one of the things I want to take that potential and grow it to this amazing future generation we can have.
Yeah, definitely. Great. So the message for schools is to get them trained and for them to understand selective mutism. And what message would you have for parents who might be watching this video, who might have a child with selective mutism? What would be your key message for them?
So my key message always is something that I think is very close to home, is you've got this beautiful flower that needs to bloom, and you are the water of that flower. So if you're going to cherish that flower and you're going to water it, you're going to look after it, it's going to bloom into this beautiful flower. And everybody is just going to be in awe of what she or her can do. And that is just the most important thing, is to go with them, be there for them, go to their level, and just think about what the situation will be for you. If it's a anxiety situation for you, think about where your child will be in that, and always know where they are and where you are, and just supporting them will be the best thing you ever do for them.
Great. And any parent who's watched this video so far is clearly doing research and, you know, is on the right track to helping their child. Oh, yeah. That's amazing. Do you have any last messages or any last things that you want to add in this video about selective mutism, or anything you haven't yet shared?
Well, it's just there is resources available. Always go further, do your own studies. The Selective Mutism network around the world is there for you. It's not that they're going to tell you they can't do a meeting with you. I've had such great meetings and such great support of all the people. So never feel that you are alone. You are never alone in this journey. And find people like-minded like you and have them always support you. And if you're going to take steps back, there is going to be days where you're going to feel you're taking 5 steps back, and it's okay to do that. It's fine, because you're going to take the steps forward again. But don't give up ever on your journey or the journey with your child, because at the end of the day, like I said, it's going to be the most beautiful flower, and you're going to be the proudest parent that you can be. So whatever the age is, just always be there for your child and have the community always support you.
Oh, that's great. Yes, that's a great message. Don't give up. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And, you know, we at Confident Children, we obviously work with children with selective mutism every day. And we see children overcome selective mutism every day. Even parents who, when they first contact us, say, you know, is it possible? Will my child ever be able to do it? And we see it happen all the time. Children absolutely can overcome selective mutism.
Thank you.
So yeah. Thank you so much, 𝗲𝗲𝗲𝗃, for being here and sharing me. That's great.
And I'm so excited to work with you in the future and everything you do. Thank you I know you are one of the best therapists out there, because you go into that child's journey and you go with them. And I'm thankful for people like you that always are there and go the extra mile for everything. That is wonderful to have.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. Thank you. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you found it useful, and please don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel, because I share lots of videos all about selective mutism, and also have a look at the Facebook page, because I share lots of resources about selective mutism. The Facebook page is called Confident Children Selective Mutism Therapy, and if you'd like help with your child, please also get in touch through confidentchildren.co.uk. So thank you for watching, and have a lovely rest of the day. Bye.